IAQ Chair, with kind President, Mr. Shigeru Sasaki, and President-elect, Dr. Lars Skibis, and ladies and gentlemen, I feel very honored to be awarded by that Laureate Quality Laureate. So last year, I got the letter from Chair Ruth Kano, and then she mentioned that I was the recipient. I would be the recipient of this award. But I don't know at that time what is that Quality Laureate, and then write a letter to her. What is that? And then she sent me that very bulky document. And then in the document, I found the term of that Nobel Prize in the field of quality. I was very, impressed. So, and then also now that who obtained first? Nobody. You are first. Ah, I was really very impressed like this. So I feel very honored about this. Thank you very much. I think that the reason of my I have been already describe about that citation. But according to this, talk about that, mainly three things. One thing is that develop that attractive quality creation of attractive quality theory or Kano model. The second is establishing that Asian network for quality with other funders. Third is that also development of task achieving story. So now today the time is very limited, and already so 4 speakers very kindly introduced me, so that I'm very simply I mentioned about that. So I want to say about that, particularly what is the process of the research? What is that process of this kind of thing? It's a very short time, but I try to do it there. Say, our paper was done by those 4 gentlemen. So you can find the detail on your on the print on your hand. So, and then now that but what is that our our subject? So in case that when I started to study about the quality, we learn about that what is the quality. My teacher, Professor Kaori Ishikawa, said that consumer satisfaction. And also very good to say, we are very much owing to that, two great pioneers from US. One is Dr. Deming, one is Dr. Duran, and then we learn from him that quality, that fitness for use. We consider it great. And then when I was a PhD student, Professor Ishikawa suggested me not to stay only in the university, because that in quality, we don't have no laboratory in the university. So I must go to that Gemba plant. So, and then I've stayed in the Gemba, and then I'm working at the name of the quality. What I am doing that what I'm doing is that I'm doing that like just reducing the defectives. So I felt about that the gap between that reduced defective and also that consumer satisfaction and fitness for use. Great thing is that the consumer satisfaction fitness for use, but when I go to the plant, I'm doing only defective reduction. It is necessary condition, but not in the case also, how do we explain between these two activities? I cannot find those kind of things on the textbook of quality. So this is the starting point. So it's a very vague thing. So that to say, unfortunately, I did not do anything for several years. But I'm not looking to that something different. In the in 1960s, QC circle was developed in Japan, and then afterwards going to that world. And the issue, it's very much rapidly disseminated. But the Professor Ishikawa said it is not our mentality or culture different in the West, so that QC circle not fit for that the Western culture. But say one gentleman challenged for this. That is Wayne Riker. He is the general manager of that Rocky. And then he came to Japan to study. And then he said that we also can do this in US. And then starting this was reported by his report in 1975. And then we started to understand that now that the US is starting that. And then professor said that, he suggested that, okay, we had better send somebody, young guy, sent to the US to start survey about this. And then, so Mr. Junji Noguchi, he was that at that time, he was the international director of JSE. And then he came to me and say, I must go to that, this US. So, and they asked, why I'm selected? Because that, at that time, I'm involved about that, international cooperation program of for Iran, Iranian Institute of Quality. So by this reason, and then also that my activity has been evaluated by Asian Productivity Organization. That is come to be reached to that JLC. And this is the reason I was selected that. Then after that, I'm going to went to US and then discussing my surprise that in Japan, QC circle of quality control, this is the job of engineers. But when I went to the US, the person whom I'm talking about, those are all behavioral scientists. So that to say, and then in case of US, terrorism is very fixed. So in the case, in order to introduce that QC circle in such a very much completely established organization, then you must need a theoretical explanation from the behavioral scientist people. So by this reason, and in order to communicate with them, I must learn behavioral science. So that was my first time. And then among I learned about them. And then I learned about Maslow, McGregor, Adler. And then I was very, impressed by the Harvard, Frederick Harvard, theory of motivation hygiene, which is kindly, introduced by the Gregory Watson now. So it is. And then his theory is very much, like a motivator and hygiene factor. He mentioned about that. They motivate people for work and demotivate people. Well, it's different. And then we consider the motivation, already we first consider about the wage. Yes, wage is very important, but if the wage comes down, it demotivates the people. They although include that, enhance that wage, come to be motivated to some point, but over that cannot. In the case, in order to make the motivate high level, more important thing is that senior recognition, like this. I feel about that this might be a great idea. We are also discussing, but we are thinking about that. The quality, we must how to eliminate the quality, dissatisfaction, like defective. But to say the factor to give the high satisfaction, it may have some difference. So by this reason that and then we are starting, and then first our presentation in the JSQC done under the name of MH property for product quality. And then in the case, and then we prepare the paper and then contributed to that our journal of Hinhitu. It is the journal of Japanese Quality, Japanese Society for Quality Control, JSQC. But our paper was rejected. Say that our research is very much basic point, but our survey about the quality is not enough. I thought we have done it, but we have done it the survey only in the area of quality control. But referees say that it must be said much more other areas. But so it come to be the idea. Yes, it is a philosophy. But now how I have never studied about philosophy. How you can go? It's an almost desperate situation. Then at that time, now I remember that. Now that here you can find that Yoko Oyama. At that time, she worked with me as the secretary. So, and then I remember she just finished that, say, Department of Philosophy. I was very merited at that time, Japan. The say students who study that philosophy, very difficult to find a job. And then come to my office. Okay, that is very much benefit. And then he mentioned that if somebody among the philosophers who are talking about that philosophy, who are talking about quality, or this is only one philosopher, his name is Aristotle. So when I mentioned that, she just finished the graduate school, okay? So that to say, she studied, but say, immediately to make such general question, he mentioned, if it is so, only that say Aristotle. I was very surprised, and then I feel about that. Maybe we can study. So, and then I asked her, which book, please find it. And then she purchased the book of metaphysics. And then, based on this, and then we understand the difference of species and quality. Okay, that is the very duality, the relationship. And then also from this, after that, now I learn about how to say consult the encyclopedia of the philosophy like this. And then I found about that to say John Locke, British empiricalist. And also that to say, and also Schuher, he is the father of modern thought. He is the teacher of Dr. Deming and Dr. Johann. And then they say they are talking about quality, only talk about two aspects of quality. In case of that to say, it is the Schuher say, objective aspect and subjective aspect. So that is the fit of our survey. So that x-axis, we take that to say objective. And then y-axis, we take a subjective. And then we can develop that to say so-called that Kano model, like attractive, indifferent, one-dimensional, and must be quality like this. So, and then now in this way, it is that is the paper accepted. And then afterward, it takes another nearly 20 years. So in the case that to say, in my research group, it's not so many people say, not so many students interested about this. But to say, at that time, now the say our colleague Yukihiro Ando, he is say he finished my seminar. He come to my seminar often, and also he also said working with Professor Ikezawa, he visited there. So that maybe he may introduce that the Kano method, Kano model, and so on. And then that the Professor Ikezawa's research group, one student, his name is also Ando, Shinji Ando, this is. And then based on this, this is the case of Mr. Tsuji. He is one of the authors research. In this case, when he did it, most of the, for the remote control of TV set, most of the response is that attractive and indifferent. But as regard to say, 6 years later, this is that Mr. Shinji Ando, that was done in the case that it is more one-dimensional. And then we have another, our research group, Nishi Nakayama, so on. And they come to be that to say, must be quality. So in the case remote control, going to start attractive, but the lapse of time, we come to be, must be quality. This is something similar, like the young couple, John and Mary, when they got, say, before the making love, before the marriage, they are what it's kind of the attractive. Getting married may be one-dimensional, and then come to be must be. This is to say, Greg Watson mentioned about that, and John and Mary like this. So by this kind of rotation, in case that indifference quality comes to be at first as indifferent, attractive, one-dimensional maximum. This kind of life cycle comes. And also that say based on the based on this, now that we are in case of that attractive quality theory and also like a rotation, this is not engineering. This is just observation. It is just the recognition theory. So that's the philosophy. But I'm an engineer. So I'd like to do something, a new idea, but based on new idea to create something new. And then I got very big impact from Takanori Yoneyama. He was that academician. He was the president of this JUSE, this building, but fortunately, several years ago passed away. And then according to Yoneyama model, many of my students, many colleagues, and also companies are developing, doing that, attractive quality creation like this. And then when you look at this, maybe my research style is different from this. It is because that I'm belong to the Gemba school, or maybe field scholar, but not like librarian or not the literature survey. So, and also in the case it is it will be very interesting, but it's very difficult how to do it. But fortunately, I met with that their encounter with that hardware. So in this way, that it's a little bit But and then also very important thing for me, I'm very lucky. So in this case, now that my year rope, it's quite big. In the Asia, we have the saying, if somebody have the big one, he must be rich. But unfortunately, I'm not rich. But I say I'm very quite lucky, I see. Maybe it comes from my ear, I see. So I must thanks to my parents like this. And also as regards the aunt, Yoshinori and Jana, very beautifully explained. I have nothing. But one thing is that now when we started, it started 7 organizations. Now today we have 20 organizations. And then also my wish is that today, maybe in the future, or if the paper is presented in the our NQ, it is the highest position. That is my wish, like this. Now as regard this is that the task achieving. Task achieving is like, user quality improvement come from the advancing maintenance, problem solving, and task achieving. Task achieving is that innovation. If I ask everybody will say task achieving is the best, but actually not so much. Because that very important thing, task achieving is that is the policy. Task achieving need investment. So the problem solving not so much. But task achieving change the mechanism. It means a new investment. So in this case, the important thing when we do it, when we are doing this, it is done by that by the policy. Now those are all my secretary. They are very happy. And so finally, I mentioned about that my thanks to that Akiko, my wife. So you know that when we got married, I am still that PhD student. My big job is that prepare the dissertation. But my big problem at the time, not the content. I have done the research, but problem is that my penmanship is very bad. At that time, no PC. So everything is handwritten, but my handwritten cannot read. So that even though the content is okay, that this problem. But Akiko is very beautiful writer. Okay, I'm very strategic. Okay, and then made this. Okay? So this is today. They say I'm getting this as great award, but it's starting from the doctor degree. So it was very much owing to her. Thank you very much, Akiko. And also now this is my family. Now that our biggest hope is that Noriaki, she is just started work last week. So thank you very much, all my family. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kano. So before ending, so we are providing the bouquet from JUSE.